Now, this is Nights with Dennis Walter.
Round and round, up and down, through the streets of your town.
Okay, it's 8:07. Good evening, Dennis Walter with you, and I'm here right through until midnight, and I hope you're going to be part of the program, but you don't have to be. You can listen. Just listen. That's what radio is all about. Plenty ahead on the program, including a big radio cuddle, an interstation cuddle that is coming up in about 40 minutes' time. We've got legal advice for you. If you've got some sort of legal question, we'll be able to help you. We'll be catching up with Tim Wheatley, son of Glenn, about Dad and something innovative that Glenn did prior to his very untimely loss. There's so much ahead on the program tonight. Paul Harris will be telling us maybe what to watch on the small screen or go to the cinema to have a look at. We've got a great quiz and a great daily wrap coming up after 11. 133693. Theo Zographos is a Monash counsellor. He joins me for news of the day. Theo, good evening.
Good evening, Dennis.
Hey, can I just ask you, I've just been thinking in this last couple of days about our election system. And do we perhaps need to have a look at how it all works? Because we've had this 6-week campaign, and on the Tuesday of the final week, we get the government's proposed budget. On the Thursday before, 2 days before we go to actually vote, we have the opposition's budget. But a third of us have already voted, Theo. Now, I would have thought we need to get the budget out way in advance of when we vote, because there could be some of those people, then up to several 100,000 who have already voted, who might have, with the events of what's happened over the last few weeks, they might have actually gone, oh, hang on, I mightn't have done the right thing.
Absolutely, Dennis. When that's part of the strategy that the political parties leave it to the last minute for various reasons, particularly when you're in opposition, when you don't have that scrutiny from a financial perspective throughout the term. Of course, the government deliver the budget every year and they deliver MyEFO and quarterly updates. But look, definitely there's always things that we can improve on. The 6 weeks that you mentioned, Dennis, that's actually a decision or prerogative that the PM makes, and it can be, I think it's 33 days is the minimum, so really it could be 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and of course the early voting period is about 2 weeks. It was 3 weeks last election.
Yeah, that's right.
And COVID is impacting some of that as well. So I think, look, my personal view is that it generally does work well. But my advice to all people, particularly those swing voters, is to wait till election day, because, you know, people do either don't decide until election day, or they do change their minds, and people aren't really, they might lean one way, but then something happens, as you said, Dennis, and it just turns them the other way. So definitely my advice is we have an election day for a reason, but of course people love the conveniency of voting early.
They do, but it's become sort of almost fashionable to vote early now. And I don't know, when a third of us have already voted, surely that cuts out, potentially cuts out a fortnight of the campaign.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know if it's fashionable. I voted early. I wouldn't consider myself a fashionable person.
Oh, I do.
But thanks. But no, Dennis, you're definitely fashionable. But I mean, I think there are two categories of people that vote early. There are those that are working on election day, and I know many people that are in that category, and they're not available to vote. And then there are those that know who they want to vote for on either side, and they'll never change their vote, so they might as well just vote early. And obviously the swingers generally are still undecided late in the game. I personally, I do have friends who are candidates, and I've been handing out on a few early polling booths, and I'll be doing the same on Saturday. I actually love it from that perspective, because on election day, you've got 37 booths if you're a candidate. But on early voting, you've only got 3, and it's much easier to staff 3 than try to get 300 people to staff 37. So from that perspective, I think the political parties don't mind it. But when you're behind in the polls, you don't want it, because, of course, you want to be able to get those people to come your way late in the game.
133693. Do you share some of my frustration at the system? And maybe you've got a suggestion on how we can improve it. I heard someone speaking to Neil Mitchell this morning who said she'd voted Labor all her life, and then she said, I voted early and I'm not sure I've done the right thing. And there could be people on the other side who are thinking the exact same thing.
Well, look, historically, even probably 10 years ago, a $7 billion, deficit or an increase to the deficit would be a massive story. That would be a huge sort of, swinging issue that voters would consider. But it probably post-COVID and maybe in the last 5 years, Dennis, people are just more accustomed to, I guess, the finances being more on the credit card of the government or of the country's credit card rather than, trying to aim for surpluses. And people have maybe other concerns. Yes, they want a good, strong economy, but they know that really, because of our AAA credit rating, we can just continue to increase those debt levels. I'm not saying that I agree with that, but maybe, the financial component of the opposition's announcements today and the government's announcements earlier in the week aren't as politically concerning than they maybe once were.
It's really an interesting one. I'd love to hear from listeners whether they vote for. There are so many issues with this. Do they vote for the person who is leading the party nationally? In other words, do they vote for Elbow or do they vote for ScoMo? Why has everyone got a nickname these days?
My name's just Theo, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just boring old Dennis. But are they voting for the leader? Are they voting for their local member? Are they influenced by a budget that would be nice for us to all sort of look at and maybe just have a bit of a look and try and be fairly responsible as voters, because it's a privilege to be able to do it. I just find the whole thing a bit confusing, and maybe we need some parameters time-wise. Now, I heard on Tom Elliott's program today that one of the reasons that the budgets are coming out late, Theo, is because up until the budgets come out from the individual major parties, the government is paying for MPs to be flitting all over the country. And once the budgets are out, the parties are paying for it. So Tuesday and Thursday of the week of the election makes fiscal sense for the parties.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Dennis, the campaign launches of the parties also play a role in when they can claim certain expenses using their office budgets rather than the political party's own funds.
That's it.
As well. So, all those airplane trips across the states that all these MPs are taking, obviously that costs money, and also staffing costs, etc. But at the end of the day, most of the cost is all on those massive billboards we're seeing, and they're not cheap. Trust me, I know from previous experience. But also we haven't had those ads for the last 24 hours, Dennis, on the radio and on TV, and thank goodness for that, I guess.
John, good evening. Welcome.
Yeah, hi, Dennis. Yeah, I agree with totally what you're saying about they shouldn't be allowed to go and fly away and do whatever. But seriously, they should. We only vote on one day. Simple as that. If you don't vote on that day, you don't vote. And I'll give you another crack-up example. I drove from Donald to St. Arnaud today, okay? And there's the Greens. And they've got this big sign for the Greens, and they've got all these nails, and they've punched it into a gum tree. Well, what a great bunch of people they are.
That is very funny, John. What will that do to the gum tree, potentially?
Well, who would know? But, it's a big sign. So, but, they're worried about the trees or whatever else. Four big... I know if I put some brass ones or a couple ones in it, I know what to do. But they're banged this 4 big nails right into the gum tree. And I thought, you've got to be joking. Have you got any brains, or what planet are you on?
Yeah, but keep in mind, John, they would have cuddled that tree before they did that. What do you reckon?
There's a lot of cuddles on tonight's show.
Yes, there are. There's a cuddle between radio stations and a cuddle of greens and gum trees. John, thank you. You make a really good point. Theo Zographos is with me, Monash councillor. We're talking about news of the day. 133693. Do we need to put some sort of time boundaries in line for election campaigns so that we all have some time to really think? Because there'll be no scrutiny, Theo, of Tuesday was bad enough. Thursday's even worse. we'll talk more after the break. 133 693.
This is Nights with Dennis Walter.
We're talking news of the day here 2 days out from the election, 20 past 8, 3AW Nights with Dennis Walter. Theo Zographos is with me, Monash councillor. Glenn, good evening. Hey, Glenn.
Yeah, hello, Dennis.
Go ahead.
G'day. For the first time, I found the voting system hard to work out. I'm in sixth above the line, I think it was, and I followed the how to vote sort of thing, but I think I may have filled the wrong numbers in the wrong places.
Why have you found it more difficult this time? Usually it's a fairly straightforward system. Wouldn't have changed, would it, Theo?
Look, it did change at the 2016 election, Dennis, for the Senate. I think that's what Glenn's talking about for the six above the line. And before that, it was there was sort of no line as such. But it can be confusing. I know where Glenn's coming from because there are so many candidates and parties in the Senate generally. Even in my neck of the woods in Chisholm, there are 12 candidates, which is the most in the country. But Glenn, as long as you've put not only the minimum number of numbers in the boxes, but in a sequential order, then your vote will be valid. If you've put, 2 twos or 2 threes or only 5 out of the 6, unfortunately, that would be an invalid vote. But I think you've done okay, Glenn. I have confidence that it's going to be accepted.
All right, 133 693. What about this situation of people with COVID, Theo?
Yeah, well, this is something that I only was aware of late this afternoon. I think Tom Elliott was talking about this earlier on Drive.
All right,
Dennis.
yep.
Basically, my understanding is this, that if you caught COVID or if you've tested positive after Tuesday this week and you're in isolation, you cannot vote in this federal election. You can't.
That could be tens of thousands of people.
It could be, and some of these results, like the seat that I'm in, or even Kooyong, or even Higgins here in Victoria, but many others across the country, they're saying that they're going to come down to a few hundred votes, maybe even dozens of votes, Dennis. This actually happened in McEwen in 2013, which is another Victorian seat. It came down to, I think, 8 votes, and it was recounted a few times. So it has the potential to be a significant issue, particularly if we have a hung parliament, and particularly if, let's say, the losing party, whoever that is, wants to litigate this. And I'm quite surprised that someone at the AEC has let this happen, to be honest.
Well, this is the frustration for me with all of this, because I'm very much on the fence when it comes to political things, but I just get so frustrated that we've had 2.25 years or whatever it is. You would have to have been mad to have not realised that coming out of COVID, not having immigration like it was, not having workers coming into this country, that COVID was still going to be around, and we were told the flu was going to be a problem even before Christmas, to have not got something in place where potentially hundreds of thousands of people mightn't be able to vote at a federal election is just unforgivable. It's terrible.
Yeah, look, I mean, as I said, I was only aware of this today, and I would be hoping that they're trying to find a solution, whether it's you deliver the ballot to the voter's house, you put it in their letterbox, you have AEC staff doing that, or whether
What about a phone?
Well, if you caught it before Tuesday, that is, if you tested positive, you can vote over the phone, is my understanding. Let's say you caught it on Monday or Sunday, but not if you did it after Tuesday, which I think is ridiculous. So they should, if it's a regulation or some sort of administrative decision, they should change that immediately and allow people to vote right up until 6 p.m. Saturday on the phone. If that's because what they're saying, Dennis, is that they're not going to fine people, that it's a valid reason, but that's not good enough.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is voting for a government in the country in which you live.
Exactly.
Colin, good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Dennis, I'm a very considered voter, and I like to read and understand policies, and before I do cast a vote, I think it's important. And I thought, I couldn't even find the Labor policies on their website until earlier in the week. And I think if you've had all of this time to prepare your policies and costings, at least be upfront and stop treating people poorly. And I guess the other part I've found very frustrating, but they do make an art out of it, is when any of our leaders are asked a question, they normally respond by saying, well, I'll tell you what we're not going to do. I think, hang on, that's not the question that was asked. And I think it's a real art for politicians, and they think, I'm sure, that they're being very clever. But hopefully a hell of a lot of people understand that they just fail to want to answer the question. And if you behaved like that in commercial business, such as what I'm in, you'd last about 5 minutes and you'd be sacked.
Yeah, you make a good point, Colin. It's a fair enough point, isn't it, Theo? I just think that we voters are treated with a fair amount of disrespect from all of them.
Look, I mean, a lot of those politicians, Colin, they have their media advisors, and the media advisors are trained to have a few quick points that the politician reads from or prepares before they give an interview or answer those questions.
Even that's stopped happening.
Yeah, but, I think we're past the time now, probably at least a decade, where voters do want their politicians to be candid and honest, even when they make mistakes. And you'd be surprised how far that goes to get people to actually listen to what you're saying when you're a politician in public office, and even maybe get their vote or their trust, because everybody's human and everyone will make mistakes. And the worst thing to do as a politician, as a government, is to try to cover it up or to deflect to your opponents. So, hopefully that will change, and people will make their views known to all candidates that you should just be honest and candid and to the point, and that's how you get results.
133 we are going to be taking the Sandown Cup Greyhounds tonight live, plus Jonathan Brown's on the program too. Hello, Corey.
Hello, how you going?
Good.
Yeah, I'm in quarantine at the moment. I did a home test on Sunday morning, and I tested positive. So I went straight and I got a PCR test done on the Sunday. On the Monday morning, I received the government text from the health department saying that I was positive for COVID. Now, I tried to go online, and I get a bit frustrated doing things online, and I was unable to register for the postal vote. So then I was seeing the thing for the phone vote, and that didn't come active as of Wednesday for the phone vote. When I rang up today, I was told that because I caught COVID before the 17th of May, I'm not eligible to do the phone voting. So basically I've been told by government departments I have to quarantine at home, which means I physically can't go and vote. Now, I've also been told that I can't phone vote. So basically we've been told we're not allowed to vote. So I risk getting a fine because I'm told by my own government.
Yeah, you will get off that. You will get off the fine, Corey, but that's not the point. The point is you want to vote.
Yes, I want to vote. I care for my father. My father lives with me as well, and he's always voted. I mean, he's never missed a vote in his life. He's 83 years of age, and he's very concerned that he can't put in his vote. His opinion is every vote counts.
Corey, keep listening to 3RW. There will be developments tomorrow on Brekkie, or maybe even overnights with Tony Moclair and, of course, with Neil through the day. Corey, thank you. What a frustrating position. Theo, we're really short on time, but it's great to have you on the program. And I know you're happy about the AFLW pay rises. Yeah,
well, look, I thought this was quite interesting.
But we'll have to be quick.
Yeah, look, basically, I thought we wanted to say, what profession do you get such a large pay increase in, Dennis? But look, I think overall there's progress being made on these fronts, and I think maybe next time we can talk about people such as in local government or in other areas where there is a low base.
Put it up your sleeve, Theo.
But one thing I want to leave you on, Dennis, just before we go, Anthony Albanese, he's the first person from a non-Anglo background to be contesting the Prime Ministership. And I don't agree with his politics, but I think if we do have him as the first PM, that's a very important component of Australia's history and progress. So I think that would be a great thing for someone in that position to
Theo,
have the Prime
we have to go because we've got to take a race live.
Absolutely.
Theo Zographos,
Thanks,
Monash Councillor, good on you. Thank you. Back after these.